Hello and welcome to this week's Image Comics reviews. This drops every single Wednesday. I wanted to say that first. That's where I got tripped up. I'm joined by Pete this
Yo,
week to bring you four
count
Image
them.
comic reviews. We didn't do one last week because we were busy with Comic-Con stuff and we weren't too inspired by the books that were out then. So we're making up for that this week. Image Comics gives us the books early so that we can review them for you day and date. Today, we're going to be talking about Gunslinger Spawn #1, King Spawn #3, Ant #1, and Made in Korea #5. Those are the four books that we thought were Image's biggest, and so we're here to talk about them. Before we do, want to let you guys know how you can support the show everywhere that we are. Of course, we are the Comics Pals. You can find us all over social media and the wider internet at the Comics Pals. Get us at thecomicspals@gmail.com if you want to write to us. And if you just want to leave us a comment, you can do that anywhere you're engaging with us, including YouTube, where you can subscribe for free at youtube.com/thecomicspals. Like the video, share it with your friends. All that stuff's free to do and helps us out a lot more than it costs you. If you want to hear our main show, which we think you should tune into, that drops every single Monday where we're talking about the characters you love and all the places you can find them. Make sure you're checking out our interviews from New York Comic Con. We did a bunch of them. They're up now. A lot of them are. And keep checking back. That's why you really should subscribe if you haven't, because there are interviews that will continue to drop and we want you to know that they're out there. So subscribe, hit the notification bell. We interviewed Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. Greg, of course, a legendary artist from Spawn, which we'll be talking about in a moment. We interviewed Philip Kennedy Johnson. We interviewed Kyle Higgins. For those of you who love Radiant Black and listen to our reviews of that, we made sure to get him for you guys. We did a bunch, so go check those out. It would mean a lot. Let's dive into the first review here. We're going to start with Gunslinger Spawn #1. This was, for me, a highly anticipated book because Brett Booth was joining the team as the artist. I really like Brett Booth. I think Brett Booth is super talented. He did the X-Men one shot. It wasn't a one shot, but it was a one and done story during Jonathan Hickman's run on that title. I think it was like issue 18 or something. So we've got Brett Booth. Of course, Todd McFarlane wrote it. Unfortunately, Alice Cott did the scripting on the Small Gift sub story. Thomas Nachlik did some art here. Philip Tan, Kevin Keane, Adelso Corona did the inks. Daniel Henriquez did inks as well on one of the sub stories. Colors by Andrew Dahlhaus. And then for the sub stories, we had Nikos Kostis, Marcelo Izzoli, Marcelo Maiolo, and FCO Placencia. And then the letters by Tom Orzechowski. So lots of creators involved in this book. So I know that the Spawn books have been a little rough around the edges, especially the ones that are written by Todd. I had mixed feelings about this one. I didn't fully hate it.
What a glowing review.
I know.
Yeah, I think I felt similarly in the way that this felt less tough for me to get through than King Spawn has been and continued to be. Spoiler alert for me on that one. I think because the Gunslinger character is kind of like starting from a square one to some degree. So, and he has like this fish out of water quality of like, he's a weird cowboy Spawn and he's just like, what the fuck is gas? Like, I don't know. that was like, that felt novel, right? Like him and this like punk teenager that he has as a sidekick now, I guess. That didn't not work for me. It was fine. So I think the fact that like it was a little easier to pick up and see where things were going, right? Rather than like feeling like I'm in the middle of a story that's steeped in lore that I am not familiar with. I think this was easier for me to get down with, for that reason, at least, It's not something that I think I would like go out of my way to continue to read, but I I enjoyed this more than the other Spawn selections that we've had so far, I think.
So I really loved all the ideas that were presented here. I loved the idea that Gunslinger Spawn is, as you said, a fish out of water. They gave him a companion that was really smart. And Todd recognized like what can be done with this character that makes him funny or interesting, and why putting him in a modern world is something that we could get something out of. I was into that, and you know I like his character. He's kind of fun. There was a lot of like stuff with Taylor, the kid that he kind of links up with, where he's with his friends and they're barfing and telling fart jokes, and someone sharted. Like that was like, dude, what decade is this? What am I reading? That was so lame. Like I get that Todd was trying to express that they're young people, but even that didn't feel, organic. It felt kind of forced and weird.
Yeah. I feel you on that.
Yeah.
It feels like a, middle-aged dude writing how teenagers are, and it's
Right,
like
he's sharded.
Yeah, and I feel like you could just as easily communicate that by just being like, "Oh, we're here to bust you out," and then he skips work and they go and get drunk and drive around. Like that's communicating that they have that, youthful fucking, rebellious energy or whatever, right? Like
Right.
I got it, I didn't need you to write dialogue about somebody sharding while this kid throws up out the window. And it's like, of course, like the only girl that's with them doesn't have any lines of dialogue or name. They're just like, oh, there's a girl with them also. Like it's just very like, okay, this is very, very like 2000s energy.
My favorite line in the whole book is, "I know the power of a horse." Gunslinger Squad is being told by Taylor, like, you've got enough horsepower in your bike, because basically Gunslinger is trying to figure out how he can get his bike moving again.
Yeah.
But his tires are busted and there's all these problems, and Taylor's just explaining to him how this stuff works, and Gunslinger Spawn is like, "I know the power of a horse." That's fantastic.
Yeah, those bits did work.
Yeah.
Those were pretty funny.
Mm-hmm. The showcasing of all the weapons, also kind of fun. I think that was something that, if that was happening in a movie, that would be a really funny bit.
The thing that was another thing I thought was genuinely very funny, where he's like, "You want to know why my hat's so tall? I got a fucking knife in there too." Like, it's like very fucking funny to me.
Yeah, that was awesome. He whips out his jacket and there's like all these guns and bullets and weapons, and it's just like, holy shit, that's an arsenal.
And then you find out that like they're all like fucking bathed in his blood so that they can kill angels and shit. It's like, it's the most edgy shit ever.
It's edgy, but it's also, I like to think that Todd knows that that's funny. That
Yeah.
It's not just edge,
Yeah, like again, like that hat thing is genuinely pretty fucking funny to me. Like,
Yeah.
like the fact that the reason he wears a top hat is so that he can hide a knife in it is so silly.
My man is an expert killer. I mess with that. And so, yeah, I thought that there was fun. Like once we got past the earlier pages, I started to enjoy it. I thought the angel fight was kind of cool. I really liked that from a visual standpoint. Brett Booth just brought it here. You can tell that, and I think, if I might be wrong about this, but I don't think this is Brett's first time on Spawn or drawing Spawn, but it just he looks at home here for sure. Just drawing these larger than life angels and the gunslinger, all that stuff looks great. So yeah, the main story, I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with the main story.
And then there's like so many backup stories.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, I don't need this. I really don't.
Weren't really necessary. There was like a needless tie-in to make it. So Taylor's name is Taylor Bartlett. And what they did was they did a flashback to the gunslinger's time. He's like from 1850, whatever, 1853. And you see that there's like this bad guy whose last name is Bartlett, the Bartlett clan. And it's like, we don't need that tie-in. The idea that Taylor is probably related somehow to this guy, who gives a shit? It
Yeah,
doesn't
it's like
matter,
that's
right?
like I think it's more compelling if he's a random teenager that he just becomes friends with.
Yeah, there doesn't need to be any like like legacy attached or anything like that. That's
Yeah.
all just extra for no reason.
1 second,
Um,
somebody's knocking on my door.
oh yeah, you do you. I can keep talking. Yeah, so I'll just keep talking. Pete will be back. It's fine. We get another backstory where we learn how the gunslinger even knew how to kill angels, and it's because he's encountered them before, and he figures out that they're weaker. They're weak to his powers, but he needs his blood to empower his bullets, and so he cuts himself open to drench the bullets in blood to empower them, which is, Pete mentioned edgy earlier. That's extremely edgy. But I wasn't mad at it. I didn't hate that for some reason. And I could see myself hating it in another context, but I don't know. He's the gunslinger. Sure. Why not?
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like it felt like I don't know, this character feels very much like like Todd just wanted to do some, like Western, like fan fiction type, like, oh, he's this demon cowboy, and it's like, yeah, that's kind of cool, like I feel like I would genuinely be more interested in a book where it was actually set in the 19th century and it's just fucking gunslinger Spawn rolling into town and he's like, like the other story that they did, where he like, yeah, right, where he helps the kid at the bar and everything, and it's like, this racist, drunk patron who's like threatening this kid, and he, just absolutely decimates this asshole, and then he's like, all right, I'm out, bye. Like, I feel like that would genuinely be a more interesting book, to just like let it be, what if there was a cowboy Spawn and he just is like that kind of classic Western hero, who rolls in, cleans up, and rolls out because he can't live a normal life, like I feel like that I don't know, like I didn't love having all these backup stories because I just don't feel like I need both, but like if we committed to that as a thing, I think that could be fun,
That was the main idea that I came into this review with. I didn't hate this issue. I actually found a lot to enjoy overall, as you can tell. And I've generally been in on the Spawn thing. I think that Gunslinger could have just been set in the past, like Pete said. I don't think he needs to cross over necessarily, or maybe he crosses over somehow when the events that the Spawn titles are all leading towards begin. When that actually starts, maybe Gunslinger somehow gets sucked through a portal. I don't care how it happens. Yeah. He ends up in the modern times and he has to help.
I mean, I guess that's what's going to happen, right? Like that's...
But he's in the modern time.
Yeah, already. Right.
Like I would have preferred show us who he is through the backstories they're showing. Let that be the main idea. And then at some point time shifts and he's in the present helping with whatever the central conflict is when it began.
And then he comes back, but he still has a motorcycle. That would be really cool.
Hell yeah. One of my favorite books of all time is The Dark Tower 1, The Gunslinger by Stephen King. And in that book, the main character, Roland, is this gunslinger who is in, a very similar world to this one, deserted, it feels like old America, but it's not old America. There's been a lot of bad stuff that's happened, whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is that he goes through the towns and he's helping people, helping himself, doing things as he's chasing this man in black that he wants to kill. It's a simple story. And I feel like you can easily take inspiration from something like that and do it with Spawn. And that feels like what this is. Lean into that. Go all the way. Don't bring him into the modern day so soon.
Yeah, I agree. It would make for a more unique book among the series too. Because medieval Spawn is already a fish out of water and all that kind of stuff, right? Like, yeah. So like, do we need that as well? Like, I feel like it would be more interesting to just commit to the Western thing because it clearly seems like they're having fun with that,
Yeah, exactly. But we're not here to judge the book for what it isn't.
No, because it was pretty fun.
Yeah, exactly. This is judging it. Yeah,
this is the one I've enjoyed the most out of everything we've read from Spawn. So that's, praise where it's due.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely want to see more of this character. So I will be back next week. The art was great, or not next week, but next month. I'll be back. The art was great. Brett Booth did a fantastic job.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great marriage. It makes a lot of sense that he would be a part of this. And yeah, I had a blast. So
Yeah, I think the only thing visually that didn't work for me was some of the lettering, like some of the like onomatopoeia kind of stuff, like felt a little flat to me.
yep,
And I feel like
it's a great point.
that's something I have increasingly less tolerance for, because it's like something that's done better and better as as we get deeper into the comic book medium here. Like some of the stuff we saw from like Daniel Warren Johnson this year and like Beta Ray Bill, it's like I want more. Even in Kingspawn, there's some more dynamic lettering like that. So
Yeah.
I felt that felt a little lacking in a book that was otherwise, I thought, pretty visually engaging.
Yeah, I agree with that, definitely. And I think that's something that can be improved upon. Hopefully it is improved upon, because that is a little bit jarring that it's such a visual feast otherwise, and you just have thunk, you know.
Yeah, and it just feels very just on top of everything.
Yeah.
It's not, doesn't feel like it's really enhancing the moment.
I mean, it's literally flat. Like it doesn't pop, it doesn't
Yeah.
have any energy to it. But yeah, Gunslinger Spawn gets definitely, I would say, pull it. Don't pull it if you can't accept what Spawn is.
Sure.
If you know that Spawn's not for you for whatever the reason is, do not buy this. But if you can accept what Spawn is, if you're inclined to like it, or you're willing, or you're wanting to give it a shot, I think of all the comics that have come out other than Spawn Universe #1, this is the entry point that is the most palatable for a general audience, I think.
I would agree with that. I think in that specific context, I could say, yeah, pull it. I think for me, if you're that interested, I'd still probably just wait. I mean, I don't know, I guess, right? Like, there's a chance that this book will be worth something, too. So, like, maybe if you do want to get your hands on it, like, that's not a bad thing to think about, right? But, like, I don't know. I thought this was fun. I thought this was better than the other stuff. I still wouldn't recommend somebody go spend money on this, though, right now, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't, for a particular kind of reader, right? Like, if you know what Spawn is and you're fucking down for that, then I think this is a very cool, and I would dare I say better, cooler version than the main Spawn books, which have really been leaving me cold. This didn't leave me cold, but it's not something that I feel like I really need more of. So if your sensibilities generally line up with mine, then I think there are other books on the shelves that are more worth your time and the limited amount of books that you can pick up. Personally,
Well, maybe one of those books is King Spawn #3.
spoiler alert, no. I like this a lot less than King Spawn #1. Or sorry, Gunslinger Spawn #1.
So Sean Lewis again is the scripter here, although Todd McFarlane is credited with additional edits, whatever that means, with art by Javi Fernandez and colors by FCO Placencia, letters by Ann World Design. This was tough. This was tough to kind of get through.
Gorgeous to look at.
You didn't like the way it looked?
No, I said gorgeous to look at.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
I think it's a great looking book.
Yeah.
But
I really, really liked King Spawn #1. I thought it was great. This one I didn't love as much. It has a lot of problems. Unfortunately, Todd McFarlane's handprints are all over it. The completely overdone, unnecessary narration is just tough. It's tough to get through. And I think it overshadows what Sean Lewis is trying to do. I don't know that it's a mandate. I don't know if Todd wrote those. I don't know. But the narration just feels unnecessary. Like you're describing things we can clearly see. We see it. We don't need the narration. It's brutal. The art is so good. Don't cover it up for any of that.
Right, like I think the thing that the part of that I felt the most frustrated by is it's near the end of it, right? It's during the fight between
Yeah.
him and Kincaid, and it's like Spawn feels the power and evil, that he's now filled with. It's like we already know that he's more powerful. We've already discussed that earlier in the dialogue, right? But that darkness is the thing Spawn can use because it's something he controls too. We know that Spawn controls darkness, right? We know this. And then we see the symbiote come off of him, and then he goes inside and bursts out, and it says, he can begin eating him alive from the inside, and once his symbiote is inside, Spawn transports there himself, so he can explode out of him. And it's like, no, but I can see that.
Right.
It's very well drawn. I'm in. And if anything, you like it. I don't know, man. Like, there are times where, like, we've talked about this when we've gone back and read old comics. There are times where that as a device works and it's not distracting and it's actually additive, and you're getting narration, like, from the character's inner dialogue of, like, oh, this is what, this is how, Peter is feeling in this moment, right? Or whatever. And he's got this sense of dread. And, like, yeah, maybe I would know that from context, but like if it's well written and it's flowery and it's good, then it's like, all right, cool, it's good writing, I'm fine with that. This is just literally narrating what's happening, and it feels like watching like an old serial or something, and it's like, and then Superman arrived on the scene, and it's like, yeah, no, I fucking know, I can see, I'm watching Spawn burst out of this man's chest. I'm in.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's frustrating to have to sit through that. And to be honest, there were times when I was just like, you know what? I don't even want to read this. Like, I'm just going to skip that and read the dialogue, which wasn't, the dialogue was all right. I thought the first issue was a lot better, was a lot clearer with its intentions. This issue had several different things going on that I wasn't always clear about. I don't know. I didn't love this. One praise I will give it is that it harkens back to things that are familiar for people who only have an ancillary knowledge of Spawn, or like a small amount of knowledge. Because it references, Spawn's history,
Yes.
Al Simmons and what he went through.
Yeah, that was good, I thought.
Yeah.
I felt like we could have used that in the first issue, and I thought this did fill in some of those blanks because you imagine the whole goal of this is to get new readers in, right, and to bring people into Spawn.
Yeah, at least a lot of the goal is definitely to do that. We had Terry, we had Cyan. So, like, if you've seen the movie, even if that's all you know, that these ideas and characters will be familiar to you, which is cool.
Yeah.
And like Pete mentioned earlier, the art is phenomenal. Like, holy shit.
The scene where he's just fucking wiping all those weird cultists out is like,
yeah,
it's fucking insane. The specifically the page, it's and see, like, this is the kind of narration that I don't really mind so much, right? Where it's like, there's no amount of pain or punishment he can deliver on them that will atone for their unspeakable devotion to that slaughtering. It's like, all right, cool. Like, that's dramatic. That's a little adding a little bit of flair or whatever. And then you cut to this page of just all these crazy little tiny short weird angular panels, and the chains are just going through all of them.
God,
and going through the piece. So cool. Like, that's great. And then, the kid is screaming and he's like, yes, yeah, that feels like a moment, and it has heat, but you don't get that. So much of it doesn't feel that way. And I think it's the art that is really doing that heavy lifting. That is a cool moment outside of the context of everything else.
Yeah.
I think is how I feel about it, And I know that, like, that comes from a certain level of ignorance of, like, not being, like, a Spawn head. But, I guess, like, the whole thing is that, like, I don't feel like these books are doing a great job of trying to pull me in, aside from the fact that it's maybe something that's not super to my taste. But, like, it doesn't even feel like it's giving me the opportunity to jump in and get it, you know?
Yeah, I'm completely with you. I want to like this so much more than I did because again, same thing with Gunslinger, just better executed. There's good ideas here. There is cool stuff here. I like aspects of this a lot. Anytime that we get to see Spawn just shit on bad people is going to be cool for not an extended period like the most recent issue of Spawn, where it's literally just 20 something pages of torture. But in spaces, yeah, that can be great. Um, Even the fight with Billy Kincaid, I wasn't opposed to that. That dude's a nasty bastard, and I want to
Yeah.
see Spawn destroy people like that. Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. That's the thing is like I know that I am not the target demographic for Spawn, but I also know that I could be convinced to be down with it.
Yeah.
With the right presentation, you know? And I just feel like it's not quite it. Cuz like you said, I'm all down for the vengeful spirit who fucking kills child molesters and murderers and yeah, like cool. Like why isn't it more that? You know, like I like the idea of like Spawn as like a monster movie type story, but he's a superhero too, kind of. Like I feel like they really could get me in the way that like I described my, dream pitch for Gunslinger and what that would look like. Like I could see myself being down with that. And I don't know. It's just not hitting for me. And it's not for lack of trying, you know?
Yeah. I mean, clearly I enjoyed this issue a little more than you did. I think that if we could just get like if Todd didn't have his hands on the scripting aspect of this. I mean, you didn't like King Spawn #1. I don't think I did.
Nah.
I would enjoy this more probably. But yeah, it's so close to what I kind of want it to be. But I'm not giving up. I like this stuff, man. I don't know what to tell you. I like it.
Hey man, God bless, you know?
If you say so. Let's talk about
hopefully
something
not
that
the God in Spawn's universe though. He seems like a dick.
Yeah, this is definitely what's the first book? The first book of the Bible.
Okay.
Genesis.
Yeah, there you go. I think
this is definitely that. Well, you guys know what I mean.
That Old
this
Testament
is definitely that God. Old Testament. Thank you.
Fire
the Old
and brimstone,
Testament God.
motherfucker.
Yeah, he's not playing games with anybody. Even the angels are ruthless bastards. Let's talk about Ant #1.
This is interesting.
Eric Larson, Mike Torres on flats, Jack Morelli on letters, Josh Eichhorn credited as hardworking farm boy, and it is based on the work of Mario Gully. I should also point out that we already credited Jack Morelli. Yeah. Go ahead.
I thought this was really weird. Like I went into it not knowing the context of what Ant was. And when I got to the first page and saw that the crediting of Mario Gully, the original creator, I kind of did like a cursory Wikipedia read just to be like, oh, okay, like what's the deal with this? And like, why is this coming back and whatever. And that actually, Eric Larson gets into that in the what I guess will be the letter section at the end of the book and provided a little bit of extra context. I feel like this is a very, very interesting comic in terms of its like backstory and the context of how and why it exists right now. But as an issue, it felt weird. Like it felt like it covered a lot of ground very quickly, and it had this kind of like, I don't know, like a bit of like manic energy in terms of how it was like jumping around from thing to thing, you know? And I feel like I'm able to put the pieces together and get where, like what this is trying to do and how it's trying to clean up what's come before and contextualize it to some degree so we can now move forward. So fair play, right? Like maybe if I had read those issues, like some of this would mean more to me. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. This is a weird comic.
I'm not dismissing the comic because I didn't get it. I'm not dismissing the comic because I didn't have context. I'm not dismissing the comic because I don't like Eric Larson. I'm not even going to dismiss it for what was so crazy offensive that I had to do a double take. The character Half Black.
Yeah, that was something.
I'm dismissing this comic because I didn't think it was good. I didn't think it was good. I didn't think it had anything interesting to say, not to me. I was frustrated by that fact because I've actually never read an Eric Larson book before. I realize now this was not a good first introduction. Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. Not from a writing standpoint, not from a visual standpoint. This wasn't for me. No disrespect to Eric Larson. Eric is a legend in this business and deserves all kudos for that. But, when you're talking about just, the comic itself, I can't pussyfoot. And it's just literally a cat girl with bolted on tits and massive lips. And that's the character, nothing else, just that. That's what we get for that character. Half Black is obviously all of these are plays on Batman villains. Half Black is a play on Two-Face. How the fuck is that what you got from Two-Face? I'm assuming that Eric did not create these characters. That's the idea, that, Eric is, reintroducing us to the Ant and, the Rogues Gallery and blah, blah, blah. So not going to lambast Eric Larson for that, but I don't really want to see this character at all. I'd rather never see something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why does never mind. I'm like I want to shred that, but I get parody. I get, I get all that, but it's just fucking mind blowing, dude.
Yeah. That feels like something, like I get wanting to honor what's been done and everything, but maybe leave that one on the cutting room floor, right? Like maybe we don't have to. Okay. But you know what I mean? I don't know. But to, take it back to what you said on just like, just kind of a mechanics level, aside from the fact that like I said, I felt like the script jumped around a lot and it was like a little bit like all over the place.
Yeah.
I didn't really think much of the art either. I thought it was really like rough in places. It felt, I don't know, like kind of stiff, like a little rudimentary in some places, and like, and yeah, and like you said, like no disrespect to Eric Larson, but yeah, man, I did not really think much of this. I really did not. Again, I think the story of how this book exists is more interesting to me than the concept, or what was presented here.
Yeah, I really don't even give a shit about the context. Savage Dragon, like I just looked it up right now to see what the interiors look like because I've seen it before, but I wanted to make sure. Savage Dragon looks way better than this. Way better. What happened?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I don't really understand.
I wonder if it's. I wonder if maybe this is like trying to stylistically emulate what's come before.
That's probably what it was. That I think that's a very fair point. And I'll be honest, I didn't consider that from an art perspective.
Like maybe, like if Eric is such a fan of the work, like I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. Sure. Okay, fine. That doesn't mean that I have to like this.
No, it
And no,
doesn't.
I'm not saying you're saying that. Um, and I just didn't like, the main character, her superhero name is Anne. I can't even remember her like human name. Her father gives her a shot of this serum that's going to turn her into a superhero, and he gives it to her in her ass while she's wearing fucking jeans. He couldn't have like pulled her jacket up, maybe something normal.
Yeah.
And then she's laying down on the ground in a burning building, and the fucking injection, the whatever, it's sticking out of her ass. The fuck am I reading?
Yeah. I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't even feel like I have anything else to add at this point. It's just like, yeah, this was, I don't know. It was not the best introduction.
Why did she become the ant?
Because she wrote it in her childhood journal.
So that just changes her into that. Also, by the way, how old is this girl?
That's what the shot was, I thought.
To turn her into the character that she loved that she created when she was a kid. The shot knew that. Like, yeah. Did I miss something? Did they explain why?
I don't.
Okay.
No, what I feel like is maybe the explanation is that she drew this and her father remembered that and was like, I'm going to make a biosuit like the thing that she drew. But that's like, I'm drawing that line. I don't feel like that. That's me inferring subtext, not
right
text. Yeah, I did. Yeah. And I don't know, because she's very, very little in the beginning, but I feel like she's older here, right? Because when we first meet her and she's drawing the character, she looks like she's like a little girl.
Yeah.
But then when she gets hit by the car, I think she's still a kid.
Yep.
But then feels
time passes.
Yeah. And it's like when we see her find her dad's partner and he's dead, it seems like she's like a teenager.
Yeah.
The bully's older too, and so yeah, that's I don't know, like maybe she's in her late teens, early 20s or something like that. But I get like high school probably. She's coming home from school, it looks like, right? Like she's got a backpack and shit.
I don't have any more words for this.
Yeah, that's cool. Drop it. That's my recommendation for this one.
I cannot recommend that you buy this. Again, this isn't about being disrespectful or offending anybody as far as the creative team, but this just didn't work for me at all. I cannot recommend this book. Maybe Pete's right, and this one is just supposed to be paying homage, and that's all. And the second one will be something radically different from that. I have a hard time believing that that's what's going to happen, but hey, I'm down to be proven wrong. But guess what? I won't be buying issue 2.
No. Yeah, I think I'm in the same place.
So every now and then I have, thoughts that allow us to move forward from things like that. So I decided to do that book there so that we could talk about Made in Korea now. So we go from something we really didn't like to something we really did.
Okay, cool. Gotcha.
Yeah. So we'll talk about Made in Korea number 5 now. This is, of course, by Jeremy Holt, George Shaw, and Adam Wallet. We were all left rocked by the 4th issue. That was a heavy, powerful issue.
Yes.
And they followed it up. They followed it up with a kind of quieter, smaller 5th issue. How did you feel about this one?
I loved this issue.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've said on the main show this week, this is one of my favorite books this year by a lot. I think it's just it's really well executed because we talked a lot about the pacing of the book when we reviewed issue number 4, and we talked about how we we've really loved the book even though it's been quiet and it's been a little slower, and not slow in a nothing's happening way, but in that like a lot of what was happening in the background, and we were learning things about Jessie and how she came to be and what the context of her world is, and what some of her abilities are and how she's growing and changing. And then 4 really felt like an escalation, like everything had built to this crazy moment that affirmed all of the things that we knew or had been learning, but also taught us so much more and established a new status quo. And it achieved a lot in that issue, and did it all in the context of the story of the issue, which is, I think, again, like so artful. And to come off of that very like high, stakes, high octane issue that was very, emotional and dramatic and heavy, and dealt with some heavy stuff, to come into this issue that was more personal, and that was more about Jessie's character and what she's going through as she is, trying to find her identity and figure out who she is. And, that page of her finding the mirror of herself, right? She goes in through this men's room door and finds a mirror of herself, and it says, "This is an emergency, break me." And she punches that image she has of herself, of how we've seen her before now. And then seeing that through line in this issue, like, they go to the mall and she wants to, freshen up her wardrobe, and, her adoptive father, who I can never remember his name, and it drives me nuts. Kim, thank you.
You're talking about her creator, right?
Yeah, her creator.
Yeah.
He is seemingly taking her to this, like, this shop, and they've got dresses, and it's like these very feminine clothes, and she wants to go, and, she has, like, the shorter haircut now, and she is putting on these more, traditionally masculine kind of clothes. And, like, it's clearly her, at least I think clearly, right? Like, exploring her identity and trying to figure out who she is and how she wants to present herself, and, like, who is the Jessie that she wants the world to see, and yeah, I really like this. I like how personal and vulnerable it feels, like, coming off of that issue that was so oriented on, action and tension and fear, to have this be, quieter, very humanizing kind of moments for her, right? Of her really trying to find herself. I really thought it made me feel closer to the character, and made me, like, really not necessarily understand her struggle, because I already, it's already clear what she's going through, right? Yeah. And I think she's been struggling with that, but seeing how it's evolving, right? And that she's looking at other people and wanting to, talk about, like, when is her body going to change, and, and those are things that, she's being told are not going to be an option for her, and like, and yeah, I don't know. There's just, I feel like there's so much there in terms of what Jessie's going through, and I really, really, I think that the fact that this book has been able to, like, achieve so much character work in 5 issues, is really, really cool. Like, it's very, very well done. It's definitely a book that's left an impression on me.
Yeah, completely. It it's sad in a lot of ways. I feel for Jessie, because Jessie, and that's something that the book is kind of quietly, subtextually dealing with, is like, what are the ethics of, creating life in this way? because Jesse has all of the desires of a natural human without the ability to um, kind of like go through the natural human evolution.
Yeah.
She's not gonna grow. She's not gonna, if it were to be her choice or desire, she can't conceive, a child. She can't, there's a lot of things that won't happen for her that she may decide that she wants. And what's that? How is that supposed to, um, how does that look in the real world? Um, she sees kids walking, friends having fun. She doesn't have those things. She's a robot, and everyone knows that she's different, and she knows that she's different, but she doesn't feel different. She doesn't know what it is to feel like anything other than what she is. And that's such a powerful statement about, feeling like an other in the world in general. Um, but putting it in this context, it's like, hey, this isn't that far from like what we'll have to be dealing with maybe one day, answering those kinds of questions about the ethics of robots and how we treat them and use them and stuff like that. And I love stories like that. We had Jeremy on the show, and I told them, like, this is, I'm here for this kind of thing. This is great. And I want to see more of this in comics.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed the storytelling here. This was definitely my book of the week.
Absolutely. I recommend this book to everybody. Like when people
Yeah.
ask me what I'm reading, this is one of the, it's, if not the first, it's one of the first 3 books I rattle off. In terms of, this is a book you should be reading. I think it's really smart. It is good science fiction, but it's also good just human storytelling, right? And like its ability to like explore these questions of identity and what does it mean to be alive, and what does it mean to express yourself, and all those kinds of things. These are deeply relatable human experiences, that Jesse is going through. And I have just a profound amount of empathy for this character and what they're experiencing, and some of the feelings that they're having to grapple with, and again, right, like this confrontation at the mall, right, like being treated like an object, right, like as this thing to be controlled and turned off, when you're an autonomous being is, like, imagine how that makes you feel, right? Like you're still developing mind too, right? Like this is a like Jesse's only been alive for what, weeks, months maybe. I don't know. I feel like we're gonna see her become like a revolutionary or something, like I don't know.
Yeah. There's a scene where a guy is he's got a proxy of his own, but it's an adult, or she's got the body of an adult woman, and he's like, changing her settings and stuff like that.
This is Kim's like partner, I guess, right?
Yeah. And it's a scene that's so devoid of humanity. And if you just remove this proxy and you put Jesse in her place, or you think about, what the fate of all these proxies is, it's like, well, is that okay?
Right. Yeah, I forgot. This guy's Kim's cousin as well.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that that interaction, right? And like then you see like the last thing that he says is, "I won't argue with you there. The perk of my creations is that there's no babysitting required." And then it's a shot on her face, right? And it's just this blank kind of expression. And
her nudity there is also very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that as a concept is really, really well echoed in the proxy story at the end of the issue. I really like this one a lot. This was from Dave Cole, and it's called "You Hear Me," and it's like clearly this child is creative, right? Is like wants to be an artist. He has the first thing we see is he has a picture or something that he's drawn, and he
Mhm.
wants to show his parents, and they're ignoring him. They're on their phones, they're disengaged. And he, goes up to his bedroom, and he has this electronic drum set, and he is trying to practice, and it doesn't like the feeling of this electronic kit, so he builds a drum set, out of all these things in his room, because he wants to be heard, and he wants to get a reaction from them, because he's being he's being treated like an object, like a toy that they've grown disinterested in, right? When he's clearly a thinking and feeling being, right? And who seemingly has some level of autonomy in the same way that Jesse does, right?
Mhm.
Creating art is that's the most human thing in the world, right? Wanting to express yourself, to be heard. That's really crazy. And that kind of idea, I feel like, is echoed throughout this issue, and that those questions that we're asking about these autonomous these autonomous beings, right? They're people for all intents and purposes, and in their own way they're not, right? They're something else, and that's what they're gonna have to grapple with in time as well, I would imagine, right? Is like,
Right.
what does it mean to be different than people, because we're not really people. But yeah, I feel like that's just such a it's not a totally new idea, right? Like, we've seen lots of stories that have that question of are artificial beings alive, right? But I feel like Jeremy treats these characters with and I guess I should say Jeremy's collaborators, right, who've written the backup stories and all those things as well, and of course the artistic team. I just feel like they treat them with such a profound amount of humanity, that it really does make it easier to connect and not have it feel like this abstract question, right? Of like I like, on the page, I don't feel like she's any different than anybody else, right? Like, she's just trying to find her place in the world, right? Like everybody is.
On the matter of the backup story, that character, that boy who wants to create and is being ignored, wants to be heard by his parents, that's a universal feeling. Not necessarily that every single human on earth can relate to it, but a lot of us at some point or another have felt ignored by our parents.
Yeah.
It takes on a different context when it is, a proxy which they purchased presumably, and doesn't have needs in the same way presumably as human children, that require your constant attention almost. But parents ignore their human children all the time, and I love that these backstories are often stories that can resonate with you, um, even though you're looking at what's happening to a robot,
Yeah.
So there's just so much to love here. Made in Korea is fantastic. It's gonna be a sad time when we're reading the finale, but this has been a tremendous ride thus far.
Yeah, I really truly couldn't recommend this book more highly. It is pretty much my pick of the week every time that it is one of the books we read. So
Yeah.
high praise for a really, really exceptional creative team.
And I wouldn't even necessarily say, it's 5 issues in. I wouldn't even say you need to trade weight it. I would say go pick up these issues. Go pick it up, because even if however you get them digitally, whatever you do. The reason I say that is because in order for these books to continue, in order for Jeremy to get their next at bat, in order for George Shaw to get their next at bat, in order for us to get these kinds of stories, we have to support them. So, if you've heard our reviews and you're curious about the book, take the plunge. Yep. I say pull the first one all the way to now, and then jump on 6 when that comes out. So.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a book that we get free from Image, and I buy it on Comixology just because. And I'm gonna buy the trade when it comes out, because I really like this book, and I want to put my money where my mouth is on this one. So
yeah,
hope you'll do the same. Really, really hope you will.
That's it for our reviews of this week's Image Comics. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. If you leave comments anywhere, we respond to those comments every single week on our main show, The Comics Pals, which drops every single Monday. Check that out. Listen for your comments, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of the content as well. If you want to support the show, you can write to us at thecomicspals@gmail.com. Leave us a follow, a rating, a review, wherever it is that you're listening to us. Subscribe on YouTube for free. Like the video. Share it with your friends. All of that is free to do, and it helps us out a lot more than it costs you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We, of course, are the Comics Pals, saying until next time, take care, guys.
See you next week.